Okay, welcome to another code review from MyBreadth. Today I'm going to go over how the portfolios are actually created. Take a look at that. There's a lot going on in the portfolios, controllers, and models. So I'm just going to kind of break it down piece by piece. Try not to go over 10 minutes on this one, but just going to go over the creation of the portfolio, kind of the validation of the data, making sure um, symbols that aren't symbols for stocks don't get stored and how that all gets checked and validated before we store things into the database. So if you've been following along, we are going to use Bobby Barker here as our test case. And so right now, when you log in, it goes to the current portfolios page of which there are no portfolios. Now, every user has access to this thing called core, which I'm not going to go through right now. I'll do that in a separate video, but this is for every user to take a look at how the market is actually looking, whether it's a positive breadth environment or a negative or just kind of a neutral environment. But you can also do that for your current portfolios, or if you don't like the way I have it set up in here, you can customize these sectors and indices and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and just create a portfolio. So we're going to go create portfolio. We are going to give it a portfolio name. So we'll call this one Price is Right, maybe. And then let's just we'll make this one. Now symbols can go in uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter as long as the symbol is an actual symbol that exists. So I'll show you how that all gets validated and I'll show you some error cases. So we'll just do a couple. I'm going to keep these short so the APIs don't take too long, but let's just do some semiconductor names. AMD. Yeah, okay. And then you can put up to 20 at a time, and then you can add as many as you want. But just to make this not so long, I just did 20 to kind of kick it off, which I thought was a good starting number. So we'll create these, and I'll show you what's happening on the back end of this, and then we'll go through how this works. So let's take a look at the code. Let me close this user stuff here. So I will just say this. Oops, yeah, it's on here. When the user logs in or somebody registers, we do store the user ID in the session. So we have access to that at all times. Close some of this down. Okay, so let's go to the portfolios routes. So come to that next, but create new portfolio. And so what we're doing is first we need to check. So this application allows people to have up to 3 portfolios, and I'll show you how that looks on the front end if you try and put a 4th one in. But that's basically what this is doing, is it's taking the user ID and it's checking to see if they have 3 portfolios already. If they have none, 1 or 2, they can add another one. If they have 3, then they can't add any more portfolios. And eventually I would love to make it so you can have as many portfolios as you want, but 3 seems like a good number just to kind of go out and get some feedback from users for right now for a beta test. And if they do, it's going to take you back to the create portfolio page and it's going to flash an error like, yo, you've got too many portfolios. Okay, or I'm sorry, it's going to redirect you back to the portfolios page and tell you that. Otherwise, it's going to take you to the create portfolio page where you'll be able to do what I just did. So essentially, if you click here and you already have 3 portfolios, it's going to hit you back to this page and flash an error that you already have 3 portfolios. Otherwise, it's going to take you to this page. Okay. Then we need to make sure there's actually a portfolio name and they don't leave it empty. So again, we are going to, and then we're also going to make sure it's not a copy. So we don't want, and just for that specific user. So this goes out and makes sure that that user doesn't already have a portfolio with the exact same name. So even though in the database, like we're using the ID, which is unique and auto incremented, we also don't want them to have the same portfolio name because it might cause confusion for themselves as well. So this is going to go out and validate portfolio data, where is that here? Probably at the end. Yes, so it's just grabbing the name of the portfolio, the user ID, and essentially just running through and making sure using this check name here to make sure that name doesn't already exist for that user. So every user could have, in the trading world, most people have a focus list or a watch list of some sort. So that's okay if everyone has that name, but just that single user can't have multiple of the same portfolio names. So that's a pretty simple. And then this just goes in the check name, literally just querying the names of the portfolios for each user, creating a list, and then checking it here to make sure name data in the list of names that gets returned. pretty straightforward. And then um, we need to clean the symbols before. So basically what's happening here on the create portfolio page is we are getting, so this is the portfolio name. And then this is just looping through, right, for I in range of 20, which I said you can get 20 tickers. And it's just creating a list of tickers. So we take that list, and that's going to be our request.form.getList, get the tickers. And then we're going to run it through the clean symbols. Is this in the, yeah, this is in the stock model. So what this is basically doing is making sure that the ticker isn't empty, because if it comes in as none, it's gonna mess up the queries and it's gonna mess up the API call. So what this is just doing is making sure the length of the ticker is greater than 0, and then it's gonna go to the API and it's gonna make sure that that ticker is real. And I'll show you how we can. Why don't I show you that right now? Actually, while we're here, go to the helpers. Whoops, let me open up the stock one as well. So, okay, clean symbols, yes, symbol check should be at the top here. So it's going to go and it's going to download the tickers. And if it doesn't return a ticker, it's basically going to say, that's no good. It'll bypass it. And then we'll get here and it'll change the ticker to uppercase so that everything in the database, that way the user can type in lowercase because it's just easier, or not, and everything will get stored in the database and display as all uppercase, which is the way you look at most tickers. Although the Yahoo Finance API doesn't require uppercase tickers, it just makes everything a lot more clean for everybody. So show you here. So like if here we do testing and I type in a ticker that doesn't exist, and we go to create. Oh, well, it's bypassing that because the new port, because it's not getting anything back. Let's do a second. Let's do prices wrong. Let's do y. We'll do I. And then we'll do. Let's just do a couple. Oops. Couple real stocks. Give me one more. Maybe AGI is a good one. Okay. So we've got 2 fake ones that don't exist, and then 4 tickers that are real. And so you see it just bypasses those. It doesn't put them in the database. It doesn't mess anything up. It just completely skips by putting them in. So that way we don't mess anything up on the back end. Okay, so once we clean the symbols, and then you saw this new portfolio cannot be empty because the ticker I put in isn't a real symbol. So this also helps from creating just an empty portfolio with nothing in it, and kind of alerts the user that, hey, we got to put some stocks in the portfolio. And then we need to go out and grab the stock names because we want them to display, you know, off the top of the head, even I'm pretty bad at it, and I do this all the time. Remembering what ticker for what, the name of what, especially if you're using like sectors or weird ETFs, like sometimes it's hard to remember what the actual name of the thing is. So we're going out, we actually have to grab the name from the Yahoo Finance API. And so that's all this is doing. It's just going helpers, symbol name. This is a pretty simple one. It's just using the YF.ticker, grabs the .info, and it grabs the short name rather than the full name, which you can get all the Inc. and all the partners, everything at the end of it gets really long. So even the short name for some things is kind of long. So that's all that's doing. So we're grabbing then the stock names and then the stock ID. So this one's kind of interesting because I had to figure out a way. I didn't want to put every single, obviously there's 10,000 stocks. We don't need to query a database with 10,000 stocks in it. But I want to make sure that if a user puts in a stock like WPM, which is wheat and precious metals, that it gets stored in the database. And then when the user, even if the user deletes from the portfolio, it stays in the database so that over time, the database just has basically the most common ticker symbols, right? Like pretty much everyone has Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple, Amazon, these types of like mega cap names. And there's plenty of others, and they're just kind of like the common ones people hold. So there's no reason for the database not to just keep, a few hundred stocks within it so it's faster and it doesn't always have to go back out and grab stuff from the Yahoo Finance API. So the way the stock IDs works is, what's the name of this one? Get stock IDs. Okay, great. So we pass in the ticker and the stock names. Um, so we create an empty list for the stock IDs, and then we get the length of the tickers, and we're going to query the database. So we're just putting this in a data dictionary to make sure there's no SQL injections, like maliciously. And then the stock ID is going to go out here and it's going to check the stock. So, okay, check stock. So all we're going to do is we're going to see if the stock is in the database, right? We're going to select the ticker from stocks. We get another empty list of tickers here, and for ticker in results, so this is all of the tickers we have, we're going to append to the ticker thing the ticker symbol. So now we have a list of tickers out of the database, nice clean list of tickers. And then if the data we're passing in, so if the ticker from the, let's say wheat and precious metals would be this is coming from the user. If it's in tickers, we're just going to go grab the stock ID from the database because the stock already exists in the database. So all we need is the ID now. And then we'll have all the information we need to show the portfolio. Else, we're going to add the stock. And that's real simple. That's just an insert into. So all this is saying is, hey, if the database has the stock, give me the ID back. If not, we're going to create we're going to put the stock in the database, that will also return the ID. So either way, we're getting the IDs of the tickers back, and then we just append the stock ticker, whether it's already in the database or we had to make a new one and now it's got a new ID. Doesn't matter. That takes care of all that within here. So that grabs our stock IDs. So now we have the stock names, stock IDs, and then we are going to save the portfolio. So over here, we've just got the name, the user ID, and that's all that's going in the portfolio. And then I have a portfolios stocks. If you watch the first video with the database, is kind of our many-to-many join table there. So then we get the new portfolio ID because we need that to be able to store it into the join table. And then our new join is just simply going to be the new portfolio ID and stock IDs. Now this will be basically hard-coded, you'll see. So portfolio stocks, save test. Yep. And so all we need to pop in is, again, we're going to hard code that ID basically because it's just one portfolio and it's going to be the same portfolio ID in that database table. And then we're just going to loop through the stocks. So there's just going to be a line for each stock with the same exact portfolio ID. And then that's it. And so that saves all that. And then it redirects us back here. And so what we get then is a portfolio with all the stocks in it. And now we can do all the normal stuff the application does. For the sake of time, since that took a little longer than I actually thought it was, because there is a lot of validation, trial and error got me to this point. Sometimes you forget how little things like nuns and empties and things returned as false can kind of break things. So it took me a while to troubleshoot that. But now it all works. So there's really no way to break this. I will show you real quick. If we try and create, let's just do some boring stocks. I don't know, Eli Lilly. I'll just create this third portfolio so you can see how it will tell you if you already have 3 portfolios, you can't make another one. Okay, so we've got this, and then I will go over how we can add stocks, delete stocks, remove the entire portfolio in another video, but let's just go to create portfolio and see it kicks me back here and says you already have 3 portfolios, please delete it to add another one. I think I'm going to make these flash messages, just kind of create some custom CSS and kind of maybe highlight it like this with maybe a different color so it's a little more obvious and it's not just black. But I still have a few more little front end details to kind of play with. I'd like a little more distance between here. But anyway, for the most part, all the back end stuff is good and working. And so that's how we create portfolios in the MyBreadth application. Hope again this was helpful as always. And if you have any questions, let me know.